The turquoise waters of the South China Sea have become a stage for a tense and unequal standoff. For generations, Filipino fishermen have sailed to Scarborough Shoal, a rich fishing ground they know as Panatag. It lies well within their country's exclusive economic zone. But today, their small wooden outriggers are met with a formidable presence, towering Chinese Coast Guard ships. These vessels are not there for safety, they're enforcing a claim Manila and the world have rejected. Fishermen tell stories of intimidation, being chased away and losing their catch. In late summer 2025, China stunned the world by declaring Scarborough Shoal a nature reserve. Beijing called it biodiversity protection. Filipinos saw it as a final blow to their livelihood. The move felt like a permanent no-entry sign, enforced by Chinese maritime might. Tensions spiked. In August, a Chinese vessel blasted a Philippine supply boat with water cannons, nearly causing disaster. These are not isolated events, but part of a daily grind of harassment to wear down Filipino resolve. For the Philippines, this is about more than fishing. It's about sovereignty, security, and the rule of law. The shoal has become a symbol of their struggle against a much larger neighbor's ambitions. Philippine officials called China's plan illegal and prepared a formal protest. The world watched, waiting to see if the Philippines could stand firm, with help from its friends. As tensions rose, a powerful voice in Washington made America's position clear. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, known for his tough stance on China, condemned Beijing's nature reserve plan. He called it a coercive move to advance unlawful claims and destabilize the region. Rubio's words were broadcast worldwide, signaling a new level of U.S. engagement. This was more than diplomatic talk. It was a warning. For the Philippines, Rubio's support was a morale boost, reframing the conflict as a global challenge to the international order. He reiterated America's unwavering support for its treaty ally, and urged China to stop its aggressive actions. Rubio anchored his position in international law, referencing the 2016 Arbitral Tribunal ruling that invalidated China's claims. He challenged China to respect the rules-based system. Beijing fired back, accusing the U.S. of sowing discord, but Rubio's defense transformed the Philippines' struggle into a frontline of a larger geopolitical contest. The U.S. was no longer a bystander, it was firmly in Manila's corner. The diplomatic clash highlighted the widening gulf between the two superpowers. For the Philippines, this was a critical turning point. The world's most powerful nation was now watching and ready to act. Rubio's strong words were matched by action in Congress. Lawmakers from both parties agreed, words alone wouldn't counter China's power. The House Select Committee on the Chinese Communist Party became a vocal advocate for real support to the Philippines. Representatives urged Rubio to ensure the U.S. budget backed its commitments. They warned that cutting aid for the Philippine Coast Guard and military would be a strategic blunder. The goal, build a credible deterrent, so the Philippines can monitor its waters and resist coercion without every incident escalating. By strengthening the Philippine Coast Guard, the U.S. helps create a counterforce to China's maritime militia. This is about more than patrol boats, it's about regional stability and America's own security. The shift in Washington is clear proactive support for allies on the front lines. A resilient, self-reliant Philippines is the best defense against Chinese expansionism. Securing funding is seen as a direct investment in the region's stability. Congress's message, the security of the South China Sea and the U.S. are linked. The stakes are too high for hesitation. China's nature reserve plan was just the latest move in a relentless pressure campaign. Since 2023, Beijing has ramped up activities inside the Philippines' exclusive economic zone, aiming to normalize its presence and push Manila out. Chinese Coast Guard and maritime militia tactics have grown more brazen, like the August 2025 water cannon attack, a clear act of intimidation. This gray zone aggression is designed to avoid outright war, but keeps the Philippines in a constant state of crisis. Manila faces a tough choice: back down or risk escalation it can't win alone. President Marcos Jr. has responded with transparency, documenting and publicizing every Chinese provocation. The Philippine Coast Guard releases photos and videos, shining a global spotlight on Beijing's actions. This information war counters China's narrative and rallies international support, but Beijing has only escalated, even sending naval warships to confront Philippine vessels. The line between law enforcement and military action is blurring. For the Philippines and its allies, China's willingness to use force is a chilling signal. The risk of a major crisis is ever present. The world is watching closely. At the core of the U.S.-Philippines alliance is the 1951 Mutual Defense Treaty. For years, its application to South China Sea disputes was ambiguous. Would the U.S. respond if a Philippine Coast Guard ship was attacked? Manila lobbied for clarity, and in 2023, Washington delivered. Any armed attack on Philippine public vessels, including the Coast Guard, would trigger U.S. obligations. This guarantee now covers the entire South China Sea. The message to Beijing harassment carries the risk of U.S. involvement. The treaty's new clarity emboldens Manila to patrol and resupply, knowing it has a powerful backstop. The revitalized alliance underpins joint exercises, military cooperation, and U.S. funding. Secretary Rubio and U.S. officials now reference the treaty's ironclad nature, reinforcing deterrence. The treaty is no longer just history, it's a living shield for the Philippines. For China, it's a clear red line. For the Philippines, it's the ultimate insurance policy. The stakes of every encounter have risen. The region's balance now hangs on this promise. The Philippines is not alone. An international coalition is taking shape. Joint military exercises have become powerful signals of unity and resolve. In August 2025, the navies of the Philippines, Australia, and Canada held drills near Scarborough Shoal, simulating responses to aerial threats. The participation of Canada and Australia underscores the global importance of the issue. Soon after, the Philippines, US, and Japan conducted joint sailing operations just 120 nautical miles from the shoal. Japan's involvement is especially significant, given its own disputes with China. These exercises improve interoperability and build trust among allies. They also send a clear message: the South China Sea is not China's to control. The drills challenge Beijing's narrative and reaffirm freedom of navigation. For the Philippines, sailing with powerful partners brings security and validation. The coalition's presence is impossible for China to ignore. International unity is now a key part of the strategy. The world is standing up for the rules-based order. The South China Sea conflict is also a battle over law and legitimacy. The Philippines' strongest card is its 2016 legal victory at The Hague, which invalidated China's sweeping claims. The tribunal ruled Scarborough Shoal a traditional fishing ground and found China's actions unlawful. The verdict was a resounding affirmation of the Philippines' rights under UNCLOS. China, however, rejected the ruling outright, dismissing it as waste paper. Beijing launched a propaganda campaign and continued to ignore the judgment. This defiance undermines the global maritime legal order. That's why Rubio and allied leaders keep referencing the 2016 ruling. It's about defending the rule of law, not just territory. The Philippines' case is framed as a fight for peaceful dispute resolution. China's refusal to comply paints it as a power that rejects international norms. The unheeded verdict remains a constant reminder of China's weak legal position. The legal battle is far from over. The world is watching which system will prevail, law or force. The stakes in the South China Sea are enormous. This is one of the world's most critical trade corridors. Over a third of global maritime trade passes through these waters. Any conflict here would disrupt supply chains and economies worldwide. The region also holds vast oil and gas reserves, vital for the prosperity of coastal states. China's sweeping claims threaten to lock out its neighbors from their own resources. For the US, the main interest is freedom of navigation, ensuring sea lanes remain open for all. The US Navy has long guaranteed security here, but China's ambitions challenge that role. If Beijing succeeds, it would set a dangerous precedent and shift the Indo-Pacific balance. The Philippines, due to its geography and alliance with the US, is on the front line. Its struggle at Scarborough Shoal is a microcosm of a larger contest for regional order. The outcome will shape the future of the Indo-Pacific. This is about more than fishing rights, it's about who sets the rules. The world cannot afford to look away. The US and its allies aim not to provoke war, but to prevent it. Their strategy is integrated deterrence, combining diplomacy, economic support, legal arguments, and stronger regional partners. The goal is to make Chinese aggression too costly to pursue. The Philippines is now seen as an active partner, not just a beneficiary of US protection. US funding, training, and equipment are building a tougher Philippine defense. A capable Philippine Coast Guard can handle incidents without always needing U.S. intervention. This porcupine defense makes the Philippines a harder target. Rubio's diplomacy and Congress's funding push are two sides of the same coin. The future will be shaped by daily encounters, joint drills, and sustained commitment. Multilateral exercises with Australia, Japan, and Canada show this is a collective effort. What happens at Scarborough Shoal is a test for the rules-based order. If the Philippines stands firm, it sends a message of resilience across the region. The future of regional security is being forged now, in the contested waters of the South China Sea.